You have been here before, not literally. You know that. You have never visited this restaurant, never sat at this particular table, never watched the light fall through that specific window at this exact angle. And yet, something in your brain is firing with absolute certainty that this moment has already happened, that you have already heard these words, that you already know what comes next. And then it fades. In seconds, it is gone. And you are left with nothing but the strange aftertaste of a memory that never existed. This is déjà vu. And for most of human history, we had no idea what caused it. Some thought it was evidence of past lives. Others thought it was a glitch in the soul. Philosophers debated it. Poets wrote about it. And for a long time, science largely dismissed it as too fleeting, too subjective, too hard to study. But in the last 2 decades, neuroscientists have developed tools sophisticated enough to catch déjà vu in the act. And what they found is stranger and more unsettling than any mystical explanation. Your brain is not replaying a memory when you experience déjà vu. It is manufacturing the feeling of one, while the actual memory system comes up empty. It is, in the most precise neurological sense, your brain lying to you about your own past. Here is what we now know about how it does that. The human memory system is not a single thing. It is not a filing cabinet where experiences go in and come back out intact. It is a distributed network of specialized systems that work in parallel, each handling a different aspect of what you remember and how you feel about it. 2 of these systems are particularly important for understanding déjà vu. The first is the hippocampus, the seahorse-shaped structure deep in your temporal lobe that is responsible for forming and retrieving explicit memories. When you remember what you ate for breakfast, where you went on holiday, or what happened on your first day of school, that is your hippocampus at work. The second system is the perirenal cortex, a region that sits adjacent to the hippocampus and handles something subtly different, the sense of familiarity. Not the specific content of a memory, but the feeling that something is known. The feeling that you have encountered this before. These 2 systems normally work together seamlessly. You recognize a face, and simultaneously you know why you recognize it. Your colleague from work, your neighbor, someone you went to school with. The familiarity signal and the retrieval of specific memory content arrive together, and you experience them as a single unified act of recognition. But sometimes these 2 systems fall out of sync. The perirenal cortex fires its familiarity signal. This is known. This has happened before. While the hippocampus comes back empty. No matching memory. No specific content. Just the feeling, stripped of any explanation. And that is déjà vu. Your brain is generating a sense of recognition for something it has no record of. The familiarity system is running ahead of, or independently from, the memory retrieval system. And because the familiarity signal is so compelling, so viscerally convincing, your conscious mind interprets it as a memory. A memory that, when you try to grasp it, simply isn't there. This is the core insight that came from studying patients with temporal lobe epilepsy. Temporal lobe epilepsy is a condition where seizure activity originates in, you guessed it, the temporal lobe, the region of the brain that houses the hippocampus and perirenal cortex. And for decades, neurologists noticed something extraordinary. Many patients with this condition experience intense, prolonged episodes of déjà vu immediately before a seizure begins. These episodes last far longer than the fleeting seconds most people experience, sometimes minutes. They are so vivid and disorienting that patients often describe them as the most strange and unsettling experiences of their lives. When researchers, including Chris Moulin at the University of Grenoble, began mapping these episodes against the electrical activity in the brain, they found that the déjà vu was being triggered by abnormal firing in the perirenal cortex, specifically activity in the familiarity system, without the corresponding activation of the hippocampal memory retrieval system. The familiarity signal was being generated artificially by misfiring neurons, while memory retrieval remained offline. This was the first direct neurological evidence that déjà vu is a dissociation between two normally synchronized systems. The feeling of familiarity, untethered from actual memory content. But why does this happen in healthy people? In people who are not having seizures, who have no neurological condition, who are simply sitting in a restaurant or walking down a street. Several mechanisms have been proposed, and the evidence suggests that more than one of them may be operating simultaneously. The first is perceptual similarity. Your brain is constantly pattern matching incoming sensory information against stored memories. When the current environment resembles a stored memory closely enough, not identically, but structurally, the familiarity system may fire before the retrieval system has time to find and surface the actual matching memory. You get the recognition signal before you get the content. By the time retrieval catches up and finds the match, or fails to find a sufficiently close one, the familiarity signal has already convinced your conscious mind that it has seen this before. This theory is supported by research from Akira O'Connor and Chris Moulin, who used functional MRI to scan the brains of volunteers while artificially inducing a déjà vu-like state. They created words that subjects had seen before during a hypnotic suggestion experiment, designed so subjects would feel familiar with words without being able to consciously remember seeing them. When subjects reported this familiarity without recollection state, the brain regions that lit up were not the memory storage areas. They were the frontal regions associated with conflict monitoring and decision-making. The brain was not retrieving a memory. It was flagging a conflict. Something feels familiar, but memory retrieval is coming up empty. This is a remarkable finding. Déjà vu in healthy people appears to be associated with the brain's error-checking system working correctly, catching the discrepancy between the familiarity signal and the absence of a retrievable memory and flagging it as an anomaly. In other words, déjà vu may actually be a sign that your brain's reality monitoring system is functioning well. It is catching the lie. It is noticing that the familiarity signal does not match anything it can find in storage. And that sense of strangeness, that uncanny feeling of almost but not quite remembering, is the conscious experience of your brain running a quality check on its own outputs. This reframes déjà vu entirely. Rather than being a glitch, it may be a feature. Rather than your brain failing, it may be your brain successfully detecting its own error. A second proposed mechanism is dual processing. The idea that sensory information sometimes reaches the familiarity system through two separate pathways, one fractionally faster than the other. If the faster pathway processes a piece of information and sends it to the familiarity system, before the slower pathway delivers the same information for normal, conscious processing, you would experience what appears to be recognition of something you're supposedly encountering for the first time. Your brain processed it twice with a tiny delay between the two passes, and the second pass feels like a memory of the first. Think of it as an echo, not of sound, but of perception. A third mechanism involves sleep and fatigue. Multiple studies have found that déjà vu is significantly more common when people are tired, stressed, or have been sleep-deprived. This is consistent with the dissociation theory. When the brain is fatigued, the tight synchronization between the familiarity system and the memory retrieval system becomes less reliable. The two systems are more likely to fall out of step, producing the false familiarity signal that characterizes the experience. This also explains why déjà vu is most common in young adults between the ages of 15 and 25, a period of life characterized by irregular sleep, high stress, frequent travel to new environments, and the constant intake of new experiences. The young brain is running its pattern-matching systems at full speed against a rapidly expanding library of new environments and situations. The more inputs, the more chances for a false match. There is one more dimension of déjà vu that deserves attention, and it is perhaps the most philosophically interesting. Déjà vu almost always feels like it is happening right now. Not like remembering something from the past, but like recognizing the present moment itself as already having occurred. This is neurologically bizarre because the memory system normally deals with the past, not the present. You don't usually feel like you remember what is currently happening. You feel like you remember what happened before. But in déjà vu, the familiarity signal attaches itself to the present moment. The experience you're currently having, not a past experience, but this one, right now, feels like a memory. As if the present tense has somehow been filed in the past. This is what makes déjà vu so philosophically disorienting. It does not just feel like a false memory. It feels like a fold in time. Like the present and the past are briefly occupying the same space. And that feeling, that specific, irreducible strangeness, is the phenomenology of your brain's timing systems running slightly out of sequence. The familiarity signal arriving a fraction before it should. The present moment being tagged as past before it has fully become present. You're experiencing time working incorrectly, in real time. So the next time it happens, the next time you find yourself absolutely certain that you have been here before, heard these words before, seen this light fall through this window at this angle before, you can understand what is actually occurring. Your perirenal cortex has fired a familiarity signal that your hippocampus cannot match. Your frontal lobe is running a quality check on the discrepancy. Your timing systems have hiccuped. And for 2 or 3 uncanny seconds, your conscious mind is caught in the gap between a feeling and the memory that should explain it. Your brain is lying to you about the past. And the strangest part is this: the fact that it feels so wrong is the proof that it is working right.